Hello, it's Get Good Fox here, and it's time to go over patch 5.0, the update for State of Decay 2. We are out of the 4.0s and into the 5.0s, corresponding with the major Zed Hunter update. There is a whole lot to cover in patch 5.0, so no playing around. Let's get right into it. The first subject is Zed Hunter, and it's telling us that Zed Hunter is available. If you want a full breakdown of what's in Zed Hunter, check out my Zed Hunter announcement video. The second subject is about the Daybreak DLC, and this is what they've got. Earned Clio rewards are now given to players even if they close or disconnect from a game before the round is finished. Previously, if you were disconnected or quit, you would just forfeit all of your rewards except for the prestige points, so you wouldn't get any unlocks. The collection screen now shows you the prestige cost of selected items as well as your current prestige total, just a nice quality of life improvement there. Walls no longer show interaction icons when they do not need to be repaired. Lightly damaged walls now show yellow, not orange, repair indicators, so I'm guessing there is a 3-color system now for yellow light damage, orange medium damage, and red heavy damage. We added a waiting screen for clients to keep them from spawning into Daybreak before the host. Clients just mean the other players that are not the hosting player. When a player dies in Daybreak, their undetonated, remotely triggered landmines now disappear to reduce battlefield clutter. And lastly, the loadout screen now remembers your last equipment selection, useful if you use the same equipment multiple times in a row. The third subject is about Red Talon Contractors. These are the characters of Red Talon that you can actually recruit into your community. We added a secondary recruit option for Red Talon Contractors that offers the classic Red Talon uniform. Tan vest over black clothing. Red Talon Contractors can now be inspected and rejected upon meeting them. Rejected contractors offer a 3,000 prestige refund. That is super strong. The cooldown between Red Talon recruit attempts has been reduced by half, so this change, along with the previous one, will allow you to more efficiently optimize your Red Talon recruits. Red Talon Contractors will no longer have their traits disrupted by new traits gained through conversations, nor by starvation, frustration, or other temporary effects. Red Talon Contractors with the medicine skill now offer medical advice just like real doctors. The warfighting skill advertised that it caused all shots to pierce enemies, but this wasn't true. Now, in the main game, it is true. In Daybreak, it still isn't true. But we're not advertising it anymore. Moving on into the fourth section, which is the gameplay changes. The aim camera no longer hitches when zooming in and out with a scope or sight. NPCs no longer become hostile when dealt damage from sources that weren't hostile to them. NPCs no longer react negatively when you accidentally point a gun in their direction. Your character is now only impressed by a scavenging location when it actually has a lot of searchable containers. Your character no longer reacts to every suburban house like it's a prime outpost opportunity. We fixed an issue that was making it extraordinarily difficult to walk instead of jog using the analog stick. Let's get into the next section, which is about community. It may not have been clear in the previous patch notes that we now store only the 50 most recently used legacy characters instead of stacking them up endlessly. This was necessary to reduce save sizes and prevent data loss. We are currently working on further improvements to this process. What they're talking about here is when you beat the game, the characters that you beat the game with get saved so that you can use them again in another playthrough. And so now we know that you can only save up to 50 of them. Anyways, let's continue. When you delete a community, any characters within that community who have completed at least one legacy are now saved. Negative traits gained through conversations have had their negative impacts reduced and in many cases removed entirely. You can feel more confident bringing followers into the field. We fixed several skill specializations that were not responding to experience rate buffs. We fixed an issue where we would display a mood description for a character that was not as sad as their actual mood. We fixed some hero bonuses, traits, and other attributes whose effects were being ignored, specifically durability loss per shot, durability loss per hit, and food consumed per day. And finally, for this section, we fixed a crash that would occur when the final member of your community died after finishing the final legacy mission. Moving on into the facilities section, like I said, there is quite a bit of stuff here. The sniper tower now offers a passive -2 to threat level and a new option to spend 2 ammo to reduce threat level by 6 for an hour while training the shooting skill. The sniper tower is the builder leader's ultimate building, and out of the 4 leaders' ultimate buildings, I consider it definitely in the bottom 2, with the sheriff's ultimate building, the hospital. Even with these improvements, I still don't think the sniper tower is that good because you can also get -6 threat for 1 ammo a day, not 2 ammo an hour, from the Red Talon watchtower. Anyways, continuing on, the bell tower at the church on the hill and the announcer box at Whitney Field now trigger genuine sieges when used to reduce threat level at the base. To balance this out, their threat level benefit has been slightly increased. I will probably have to update those videos then since I have reviewed both of those home base locations. You now need to interact with the storage facility directly to withdraw a rucksack rather than teleporting them magically onto your back from across the map. I use that trick all the time just to complete missions faster. What this means is that you're now going to have to manually go back to your base to get your rucksacks out. We now properly check the cooking skill when upgrading the Kitchen Level 1 facility to Kitchen Level 2. The Scrap Materials for Parts action now awards craftsmanship experience as intended. The bike generator no longer accidentally incurs a fuel upkeep cost, so cyclists are apparently no longer drinking gasoline. We fixed a cost mismatch when employing the pathology skill to craft bulk plague cure item versus individual vials of plague cure. We no longer award free influence when changing maps since you now arrive with a free base instead. Well, actually, the house that they give you is the one-man house and it doesn't cost any influence to enter, so this is actually just a nerf because you don't actually gain any free influence from being given the base that doesn't cost any influence. The infirmary text now more accurately describes recovery from injuries and trauma. You can no longer repair the same weapon multiple times in a row without damaging it first. And lastly for this section, the withdraw a rucksack action on the storage facility now appears in the same order as the resource icons in the heads-up display. Moving into the next section, which is items. Fallen NPCs now drop their close combat weapons for you to recover. They can be equipped by other characters or salvaged for parts. They couldn't be salvaged for parts originally, so that is an improvement. The inventories of your parked vehicles now come with you when your community changes maps. I'll have to update that on another video I've made, but I do wonder, what about the vehicles that are dragged with you from your base, not necessarily the vehicle that you are in when you changed maps? Will those bring their cargoes with them as well? Dropped items now display in-world icons to better indicate where they are, as well as their current condition. Plague samples are now dropped as individual items, not as containers, making them quicker and easier to pick up. The interaction prompt on dropped plague samples now says take plague sample instead of interact. Vials of blood plague cure now cure early stages of infection without needing to wait until you develop full-blown blood plague. We fixed a bug where remote rocket pods and deployable minefields dealt no damage to vehicles. They now deal a small amount. We fixed the stack count for piles of weapon remains to be the standard 3, not the 99 used for crafting items. Triggered items such as C4 are now set off in roughly the same order in which they were placed. While most of these items are still set off simultaneously, some of them, such as remote rocket pods, will interrupt the chain as they must be detonated individually. Consumables that provide an effect over time will now display while active over the health and stamina bar. So that means when you take something like the stimulant pills, it'll let you know how long you have left on the effect. Oh man, we're on the home streak, only a few sections left. The next section is missions. Allied enclaves ask for help and risk leaving the map if you ignore them, about half as often as they did before. Oh, thank God, I hate running missions for those bastards all the time. When you interact with an NPC, the dialogue options now always pop up immediately rather than sometimes waiting for the VO line to finish. Personal leadership-related missions no longer automatically override your current mission in the mission heads-up display. Several story-driven enclaves have new inventories specifically themed to their specialties. If you're not sure what that is, it's talking about the specific enclaves like the Soldiers or like the Zed Thumpers or like the Brewmasters, those guys. Starting characters are no longer shown as belonging to the same community until after you've completed the tutorial. We fixed cases where the mission known as Warlord, Notice of Eviction, could accidentally be abandoned. Oh boy, on to the multiplayer changes. We've refined the experience for clients depositing rucksacks for the host. Now anyone can make a deposit either at the storage facility or at a parking slot, and everyone is rewarded appropriately with influence. Clients now gain appropriate progress for achievements earned while in the host's game. We clarified the error message for when a client interacts with an NPC while the host is also interacting with the same NPC. We clarified the error message for when a client attempts to claim an outpost or home site while in the host's game. And lastly, we removed some jittery behavior of players and icons when riding together in vehicles. Moving on to the UX section, which I believe stands for user experience. When you open a vehicle trunk while carrying a rucksack, the cursor defaults to the rucksack in your possession if there's room in the trunk to store it. When you die, and you only have one remaining available character, we now auto-switch you to that character rather than having you choose from a list of one. Pressing the View or V button will now close the community screen even if you are zoomed in on a character. The car flip icon now consistently shows as inactive whenever flipping is impossible. And lastly for this section, the help tips no longer show over dialogue. And now the very brief graphics section. Billboards and signs now stream in their high-res textures at a greater distance. They look better from farther away. The visuals and audio for automatic gunfire now line up much better than they did before. And finally, you can no longer outrun the rate at which grass visually appears in the game, causing it to pop in seconds later. Oh man, and we're in the final section, thank God, because my vocal cords are starting to feel a little bit stressed. So basically, they've got this website called support.stavedecay.com, and this is where you can submit any kind of weird bugs that you find, as well as have any customer service issues addressed. A member of their team who goes by the alias Undead Jawa will apparently deal with your issues. They also want us to know that you can contact them on Discord, but they are not on duty during the weekends, so you can only expect help Monday through Friday. And that is the end of the massive 5.0 update. How do you feel Undead Labs is handling State of Decay 2? Are you happy with the direction it's going? Do you like how 5.0 and the Zed Hunters look? What do you think about the increased difficulty coming in early 2019 and the return to Trumbull Valley coming later in 2019? Let me know down in the comment sections. Like this video if it helped you out. Subscribe for future State of Decay 2 content. And remember that you don't have to be good to get good.